The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Manx Radio.
Faster Mai, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Today, we're talking about Ramsey with Deputy Chair of Ramsey Commissioners Rob Cowell. He's also lead member for Finance, General Purposes and Establishment. So, the future for Royal Ramsey. If you have any thoughts, you live in and around Ramsey, or you're interested just to see how Ramsey's doing, then by all means get in touch. Text 166 177. Email studio at manxradio.com, WhatsApp 166 177, or call 66 13 68. So it's Ramsey today through till 1. Faster Mike, good afternoon. Rob Cowell.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good to talk to you. Right, lots and lots of questions been coming in from the good people of Ramsey.
Excellent.
There's a lamppost in the high street causing lots of attention, apparently. What's this about?
Certainly is a lamppost in the street causing lots of attention. I think you've got to look at the wider issue here, and it's maintenance and ongoing maintenance. The regeneration of the high street outside the courthouse and up to the middle of the street was a huge success, but it was painful at that point in time. And I think there's enough noise made that the scheme was halted halfway through the street. That leaves you with a hangover in that the other half of the street hasn't been regenerated. The lamppost in question is one of them need to be replaced, or would have been replaced in the scheme. I think ultimately easy solution, we'll paint the lamppost, and there's obviously quite a few in the street that need painting to keep that kind of uniformity and smart appearance to Ramsey.
Okay, did somebody else try to paint it? What happened?
There was a request to the town hall to paint it in isolation. I didn't support that at the point in time. It wasn't part of a wider scheme. I think if it had come as a wider scheme, there may have been more success. More than willing for that to come again. It's not unusual that things might fail first time round to the board, but we have got a budget to paint the lampposts, and that will be addressed in this next financial year.
Okay, well, it's very apposite that you appear today, because obviously this morning we got the release that you've set the rate at 495p.
We have, yeah. We did that the other week. So as a process,
6% rise.
6% rise. It's a process that takes most of January. It's a long process, and nothing that we do lightly. Every project is given due consideration to keep Ramsey moving forward and to keep it the place where everyone wants to be and live. The 6% rise, unfortunately, was the sort of setting we had to set. If we continued on normal trajectory, we'd have run a loss. So we just can't do that with inflation.
Is this just inflation?
It is inflation.
Labour costs, or what is it?
It's inflation mainly. Obviously, there's labour costs that go up. That's pay increases, but we budget for that, so that's not a massive problem. The 6% will include labour increase for the next year, so we budget for increase forecast. We obviously can't predict it exactly, but I think last year we did, which is fortunate. But the rate does go up. It's just a sign of the moving of the time. I do hope it brings a wider question around rate reform. That's the actual key element here, is that Ramsey, I feel, is really up against its maximum limit. We're up at 500 pence in the pound, and I just feel like we can't go much further in asking the residents of the town.
So what's next? When you say reform, how? Yeah,
I think local authorities badly need reform. That's my personal belief. I will express that, yes, I'm a commissioner, but we're here talking and I'm here, so it is my understanding. But the Rating and Valuation Act of 1953, 71-year-old piece of legislation that we're still working to. It's so out of date, and it's so unfair, and it's not working. And I think the swimming pools bring light to that. There's plenty of things in the press currently around lots of things, but the actual focus, if you pull that back, is to the rate and the unfairness in the rating system.
Right, okay. Oh, well, you as a commissioner will understand this perfectly well. To the person in the street, what does it mean? So why is it, if it's out of date, why is it wrong, and what will putting it right mean?
There'll be people who will say there's nothing wrong with the rating system, I pay £400 a year, leave me alone. There's other people who are paying £2,500-3,000 in the centre of Ramsey, and it's not a fair system. For example, so we pay 6.1 pence in the rate for our northern swimming pool. I know that other local authorities don't pay that rate, so there's unfairness in the system. So the legislation will say you may or you shall, but it's not a case of you will and you have to. So there are local authorities that are playing the game and expecting central government to pick up the bill, and that's will run out of favour. I think it has run out of favour. How do you reform it? I think realistically you've got to look at the model that sort of seems to be accepted as the way forward is the 4+1 standard. I'm a firm believer in that. I think 4+1 might be one too many. It could be 4, but if it's 4+1, 4+1 it is. I think Ramsey should become the first of the Northern Plain. You talk about fairness. For me, to run Ramsey fairly in the future is to absorb the wider Northern Plain as a rate reform. So you'll say Ramsey becomes what they already determine as a service centre, a service hub, and we would provide services to the northern parishes, and the rate would be effectively split out across the northern parishes.
So does this signal the end for any of the other northern authorities? No,
I don't think so. I think each one would hold their own subcommittee effectively, but I think the main body, it's a vision, it's a dream, but Ramsey Town Commissioners have 12 members. That's a lot of people. It could be a northern board of 12. I think that's a vision that I would like to move forward with. Okay, let's get to the lines now. First of all, we've got Julian's with us on Manx Radio. Hi, Julian. You're live with Rob Cowell from Ramsey Commissioners.
Hi, Andy, and hello, Rob.
Hi, Julian.
Hiya. It's kind of a conversation that I was following on with Claire Barber about food security, but Ramsey used to be a major fishing port a long time ago, admittedly. Do you think that fishing quotas on the island should be raised, along possibly with incentives for people to get into the fishing industry again, especially with Claire saying that there may be potentially large increases in transport prices due to emission taxes on shipping and things?
Yeah, thank you, Julian. I listened to your conversation with Claire Barber there regarding food security and the interesting comments about the carbon footprint and the taxes that will come along associated with that. The Isle of Man is its own country, and we should be self-sufficient as much as possibly we can be. We're lucky in Ramsey. There's a farmers market every weekend. There's a lot of homegrown produce that's sold in the town. We've got some fantastic shops. Camelli's is another one, and that's a fishing shop that brings in fish from the bay and sells it on the high street. And we're so lucky that for me was a COVID success. People were lining the quayside to buy fish. Should they raise the quota? I think that's a wider question. And if it's sustainable, yes, fishing has to be sustainable, because otherwise, there's no point taking a short-term gain. This has to be a long-term viewpoint.
Yeah, looking at the quotas, am I right in saying that the entire fleet quota for the season is 100 tonnes at the moment?
You are more educated than me, Julian, on that. I'm afraid I couldn't tell you the exact quotation.
The reason I say that is, if you look at, say, historically, the Isle of Man Examiner on August the 3rd, 1956, reported that the previous Saturday, the old measure, 1,000 crans or 170 tonnes of fish were landed in one day. And then you've heard recently on Manx Radio's news that dolphins and whales are up in numbers, with large amounts of herring and skate and different kinds of fish being seen. It just makes me wonder if we might be missing a trick here. The prices of things, I noticed things like scallops on the island here, extremely expensive, and I just wonder why that is when we're landing it here. And if we're going to have, this supply chain issue in the future, it just strikes me that, it seems silly that we don't look at one of our food streams that we can have right here that can be landed straight onto the harbour side and actually try and, perhaps going back in time a bit, but it just seems sensible to try and give ourselves a bit of food security right here.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more with you there, Julian. Yeah.
At the moment, you'll know the fishing community in Ramsey better than I will. So what's the mood amongst the fishing community? Are they happy? They're making a good living?
I don't know if they're making a good living. I think they're making a living. They're getting by. I don't think times are good by any stretch of the imagination. I think any business is struggling at the moment. And, fishing will certainly be one of them.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Julian.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Good to hear from you. Okay, this is WhatsApp at 228. Oh, crikey. I wonder where we get to this. Where are we at, Rob, with the Marina?
The Marina. Yes. Well, hey, look, I'm all for Marina and Ramsey. I've said this before. I said it in the general election. Now, whether that's the right Marina, that's the question mark for me. Where are we at? There's no planning application. This thing's a white elephant that floats around the south beach of Ramsey, and until there's actually something to talk about, where are we at? It's a great question.
So at the moment, we've just got a man with an idea, a company, and nobody's seen any money.
That's my belief.
So, has the commissioners have a view on this at all?
Whether the commissioners have an actual predetermined view, I don't think that's fair to say. Obviously, we all have our own opinion. For me, I'd like to see a marina in the inner harbour in Ramsey. That area needs regeneration. The Old River Road linking into Moat Park would be a perfect scheme and quite easily achievable.
But would there need to be a water retention scheme?
Yeah, there would, yeah.
And where would the gate be, do you think?
So basically the end of the boat park where the shipping services are, you could put it across there to the swing bridge, and that would give you a basin that was outside of the river. It would give you a scheme that was achievable. My concern always has been with the outer harbour scheme on the beach is it's actual deliverable. Is it deliverable? Questionable.
Yeah, okay. So at the moment, nobody's knocking on the door to Ramsey Commissioners with a planning application for a marina anywhere else?
Not yet. I wish they would.
Okay, and talking of planning applications, the two big developments, obviously, there's the one which is to the north of Ramsey, and also there's the one on the Sulby River as well. So where are they at the moment?
Okay, so the Vollen Field site's there, and it's a Harvard Home scheme up by the Grand Island on the north of town. That's zoned for development. That's in planning. I don't see any major issues with that. Who knows when it will come out of planning, but it's certainly in the process.
It's 153 houses.
153 houses, yeah. It's a big-sized development. It's following on from the success of Royal Park. They're building units that people want to buy. It's housing for families, and that's what people want.
Well, and this was talked about yesterday with Claire Barber and Johnny Farragher. Young people being able to afford houses and being able to stay in Ramsey, really. Yeah,
youth retention, Andy, that's what it's all about. We spoke about this at the general election in 21, and it's like, how do you keep young people living in the Isle of Man? So we get these educated, wonderful people, we send them to England, they get their degrees, and they're never to be seen again, and I was speaking to a parent recently about the actual challenges and the costs of sending people to university, which when I went a generation before wasn't an issue because the Isle of Man government funded the courses. I spoke with various people about this, and in terms of, is it actually feasibly possible for us to write off those loans? So you come back to the Isle of Man, you put 5 years plus of ITIP into the system, and your loan will be written off. I think that's really worth considering, because once they've got that 5 years of life on the Isle of Man, I would hope that they would retain here and stay. But housing, we're in a housing crisis. And that was the number one theme that came out of the election in 21. Yeah. And to date, currently, in Mr. Watterson's own words, inertia. There's nothing happening. So we really have got to crack on with making the Isle of Man attractive to young people. And frankly, the only way to do that is to build houses and do it for them.
What about public sector houses? How many is Ramsey Commissioners responsible for?
So Ramsey's got a lot of public sector houses. You're going to embarrass me now, Andy. 550. But it's 550 something. I can't tell you.
Where's the biggest one? Where's the biggest estate? Is it by Gladstone Park?
Yeah, Lazare Estate will be the biggest one. We've got lots of projects in Ramsey at the moment regarding public sector housing. So we've got redevelopment of Cronkelfen, sorry, name. And we've got a new development on Albert Road, old school site, which hopefully will be 30 units, which will come forward. Again, it's that planning, so who knows when that will come out of planning. But if we get process for that and we can get on with building, I was quite shocked to hear Mr. Watson quote that only 9 units have been built additionally over the last 10 years. That seems like a shocking figure, because we've obviously had massive growth in the private sector over that last decade, but we haven't seen it in the public sector. Ramsey has a waiting list. It floats. but historically around 60 people on the waiting list. We have a need for public sector housing. We have land to do so, and as Mr. Watson says, the money's there. So this is just about joined up thinking and getting the right people to do the right thing.
Okay, there's a message in from Wendy, who just said, can you ask Mr. Cowell to explain why Ramsey seems intent on this land grab? Is it a land grab? We'll call it a boundary extension.
That's a much better phrase, yeah, boundary extension. I wouldn't call it a land grab. So I had the privilege of sitting in the process, the legal inquiry for that last week, and it was very interesting to hear the conversations from Lazaire and from Garth, and indeed from Ramsey. And ultimately, Ramsey is full. You know, we're at a hard boundary there. There's nowhere else for the town to go. And this isn't about now. It's not about 10, 20 years ago. It's about the future. You know, the Isle of Man wants to grow its population, and I want Ramsey to grow with that.
So what can you do that the other commissioners can't?
Well, that's a fair comment, but it's about bringing in the wider skirts of the town. So we are at maximum capacity. We want people to live in the town. We want the town to grow. So we want that to be inclusive of the town.
Do you think this is going to happen?
Honestly, deep down, yes, I do. I think that we have got a strong, valid case, and I think that boundaries do move over time. And if we want to be progressive and forward-thinking and look at our 100,000 vision, we have to be looking at how we can expand our towns. And Ramsey is ripe for expansion. It's a great place to live, and I think that the boundary extension shows a local authority at its best in terms of trying to be proactive and forward-thinking.
What was the mood of the consultation like? The public consultation?
Well, obviously with anything, negativity attracts, so I think you don't often get people turning up saying that's a great idea. So there was an element of anti the boundary extension, which is fine. That's a whole process. But there are people in support of it, and I hope that the chairman of the inquiry will favour Ramsey.
When's the result?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know when he will compile his report.
Presumably this year sometime.
Oh yeah, no, I'd hope it'd be this year, yeah, and then it will go to Tynwald for ratification.
Okay, Andrew, hi, you're live with Rob Cowell from Ramsey Commissioners.
Hi, good day to you, Rob.
Hello, sir.
With reference to your rates going up by 10%, I'm looking, please, at your information sheet for last year, the 23-24 rate setting, with the increase of 4.94%. And you listed in there a number of items to be addressed using that increased money, such as development of new public conveniences on the Millennium Garden site, investment in solar panels at the town hall to help reduce emissions and reduce running costs, maintenance and upgrading of decorative street lighting, amongst others. Plus, also in there does confirm that you want it's undertake the weekly collection and disposal of domestic refuse. So I'm wondering, please, how you got on with the first three items on the list, and with respect to weekly collections of domestic refuse, how do you still manage to do that when Douglas had gone to bi-weekly?
Okay, thank you very much. Andy, 6% rise, not 10%. Just to point that out, I want to make totally clear. The development of the public toilets, that failed at planning for whatever reason. One of them was it's in the flood risk zone, which is spectacular. You know, Ramsey is a harbourside town. You know, a lot of it is in the flood risk zone. If you look at the flood mapping, half of Ramsey technically is underwater and undevelopable. You know, it's criminal. There's a scheme for a harbourside wall for flood retention, yet it's not being built. So on one hand, we'll come to that maybe. The solar panels, they are bought, I believe, and ready for installation on the roof this spring. That hasn't happened as quickly as we'd like it to, but it has progressed. The decorative street lighting, I believe that has happened. So if you go down the street, there's the festoon lights that link the different lampposts, and they've also got decorative sort of side panels on them. That was in time for Christmas. Our weekly domestic refuge is a a given. That's absolutely fundamental to our service delivery.
Why is that? Because obviously, as Andrew said, Douglas decided to do it fortnightly. And Douglas is a lot bigger than Ramsey.
Douglas is a lot bigger than Ramsey, and it hasn't gone down particularly well, has it? I don't know how it's working. I don't live in Douglas, but I don't believe Ramsey has any view to be doing that in any future.
Okay, Andrew?
That's all good. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks for calling. Good to hear from you. We're live with Rob Cowell, and here's a voice you'll know. Here's Wilf. Wilf, you're live with Rob Cowell.
Hiya, Rob.
Hi, Wilf.
Very disappointed with what you're saying about marinas, because you see, when you talk about marinas, you've got to know what you're talking about. Now then, Ramsey Bay, or let's say South Shore, forget that. That belongs to the people of the island to swim on and do whatever sports things they want to do. Ramsey Harbour, that's out because of the silt situation. We've got 100 times more silt comes down that river from the Sulby River than Peel. So you can forget that. It won't be toxic, but it's mud just the same, and it'll plug the gate up. So you can forget that. Now, the old harbour, that can be done, but the expense of that is just out of this world, because the old harbour is much shallower than the main harbour, and to see any good for boats to be able to sail in and out of there, you've got to have it the same depth. That means it has to be dug out. That means it has to be pile driven right round its edges, plus the fact it's porous. You shut the gate, tide comes in, tide goes out through the bottom. Therefore, it has to have a bottom put in it. And the only economical bottom to put in it is clay. And we're talking millions of tons of clay.
So where should the marina be then, if there is to be one, Wilf?
There won't be one in Ramsey unless you go North Shore. That's the place to go. You've got 6 miles to play with there.
Okay. I do remember, because I was on Mannin Line at the time, Wilf, you were implacably against the Dean and Dyball scheme. Was that 20 years ago?
Yes. Well, because, you see, it's porous. The old harbour, which runs right through the park onto the North Shore, that's where the old harbour entrance was. And that is porous. Actually, the water comes in and out underneath the swimming pool, believe it or not. Or could you believe that I told them what to do with the swimming pool, and they did it? The swimming pool is bolted to the floor with special piles, because if anybody decides, who doesn't know or doesn't think what they're doing, decides to empty the pool for cleaning out on a full big tide, that pool would pop out of the ground, only now it's bolted down.
So if there is to be a marina, you reckon North Shore?
Yes, or you can do one in the old harbour if you put a bottom in it.
Yeah,
There's no bottom, it's
the old harbour was what I was talking about there, Wilf. That's the scheme for me that I think would possibly work. But you've got my phone number. You haven't got to come on the radio to chat to me.
All right. You can do it in meetings. Okay. Thanks, Wilf. Good to hear from you.
Oh, okay.
Thanks,
right.
Wilf.
What's Wilf like in commissioners' meetings, by the way?
I'll hold my hands up. When I first met Wilf, I had a preconceived perception, but I think when you spend time with him, he actually speaks a lot of sense sometimes, and you sit there and he'll just pipe up. You know, he won't put his hand up, he won't stand up, he'll just say it as he sees it, and sometimes as he sees it is spot on, in my opinion.
Okay. And of course gets a democratic vote every time, gets a democratic mandate from the people of Ramsey every time.
Absolutely.
Well, on a sadder note, there is a vacancy in Ramsey because of the passing of Leonard Singer, veteran MHK, MLC and Ramsey Commissioners. Well, what was Leonard like in Commissioners?
He was a gentleman. He really was excellent and very calm, very level-headed, but obviously decades of experience to the role, and he was very good at just putting a calming hand on the situation, and he just levelled the board out, and he'll be sadly missed.
Okay, and a vacancy now. If anybody's interested in becoming a commissioner, putting their name forward, what do they do?
It's very simple. You can walk into town hall, go to the counter, they'll give you the form, or you can go onto our Facebook page where we've put a link to the website where you can download the forms as well.
Okay, how long have you been a commissioner? When were you elected?
2.5 years now.
Okay, and again, lots of people. Currently, everything is all about social media, getting things done on social media. This is old school. We're talking about getting votes from real people on real paper and becoming a commissioner. Why did you want to do it?
I'm a big fan of the old school, Andy. I think old school's is still the future. I'm not a fan of the whole social media world. It has its place, but I don't think it has its place in running the world. Why did I get involved with being a commissioner? Like many other people, I got upset about certain things, and at the time, Town Clerk Peter Whiteway said to me, "Rob, if you want to sort it out, there's only one way to do it." And I thought, right, I'll have a go. And I think on the whole, enjoyed myself. It's been a very challenging process. It will test your abilities, that's for sure. But no, on the whole, it's very enjoyable.
Okay, and you mentioned the harbour side wall. Actually, we got a message in about that. Somebody saying, obviously, that was meant to be a flood prevention wall, but did the commissioners not agree with it and DOI withdrew the funding? Where are we with that?
Yes, this is quite a sorry state. I couldn't tell you. It'd be 2 years ago. It came to the commission, and it was a glass wall, redeveloped, electric charging. There's a significant loss of parking, but it was aesthetically pleasing, and it was safe, and it looked the part. And the budget was £2.9 million, and the money was there, and the project was there, and they were going to deliver it. But the commissioners, as a board, didn't like the scheme.
Just because of the loss of parking.
Loss of parking. And then that found favour with the community. The community didn't like it either. We then set about a sort of select committee, 3 or 4 commissioners, the Chamber of Commerce, the Fishing Authority, the Harbour Board, the Lifeboat. Everyone was there with a stake interest, and we built a scheme that we thought was perfect for Ramsey, and went back to DOI, and the DOI were involved in that committee. The drawings have been submitted, I believe. It hasn't gone to planning. There isn't finance in place, but from what I've gathered, that £3 million is now north of £6 million. The money's gone, and Ramsey has been left out, and it's down to us to fight for the town and fight for investment. The last regeneration was probably north of 10 years ago, but it was a huge success, clear for everyone to see. So investment in the town is exactly what we need, but that can only really come from central government.
Sure, but the parking thing resonated with people because people love that free parking on the quayside to wander through to Parliament Street. So losing that amount of parking, surely they understood that, didn't they? Yeah,
of course. I mean, at the heart of any town is its business community, and you've got to get people to be able to use those businesses, and free parking is, I think, one of Ramsey's biggest USPs. But the herringbone parking on the quayside is dangerous. It doesn't really work at the moment. Hopefully the scheme would address that and make it a safer environment. It badly needs doing, and I hope that at some point very soon we'll be getting some money for it.
Okay, a note in from Tammy, who just said, good to hear Rob Cowell. Haven't heard Ramsey. Well, June McGuinness was on last year, and coincidentally, like London buses, Lamara Crane's here tomorrow representing the Manx Green Party. But Tammy just said, what was Christmas like? I think you're at the Northern Chamber of Commerce, aren't you?
Yeah.
What was Christmas like? What was trade like in Ramsey?
So I thought Christmas was maybe a bit flat on the whole, but I think Ramsey as a town did really well. So the Chamber of Commerce is under new management. Keith Dalrymple has taken on the sort of chairmanship of that, and he's rallied the troops really well. James, who's got the Ramsey Garden Centre, put a huge amount of effort into Christmas, and it really was impressive to see a community come together. And we had a fantastic Christmas light switch on and procession through the street to the courthouse, and it just gives that community feel that everyone wants to go and do something. So it's not difficult to get them to turn up if you just provide something, and that buy-in from the community of Ramsey is superb.
In terms of vacant shops, are there that many in Parliament Street at the moment?
There's a fair few. I don't think there's that many. I think we're in a time of change, that's for sure, and there's going to be a settlement of how do people move forward and what do they want to do. I think businesses at the moment are going through the worst time they've ever gone through. We've been through COVID, and that was like, this is going to be really difficult. And we came out of COVID, and it's been really difficult, especially the hospitality sector. I don't know how anyone would currently look at the hospitality market and go, I really fancy doing that. They must be running out of restaurateurs and cafe owners who think that's a great idea, and I take my hat off to all of them. They work really, really hard. But there's campaigners in the UK who've been trying for years to lower the VAT rate on hospitality from 20 to 5, or even the flat rate at 12.5% would be fantastic. But hospitality is worth so much money to HMRC and obviously to the Isle of Man government that I can't see it ever happening. But we can obviously push and try. But the Isle of Man government's stock answer is nothing to do with us. It's the UK, and that's the wrong answer. It should be a case of we hear your concern and we will raise that when we next meet with our UK counterparts.
See, a lot of public, a lot of people who go shopping or go to, as you say, restaurants and cafes, perhaps don't understand how people are struggling. And you say people are struggling. People are struggling. Businesses have gone before Christmas and since Christmas. So and some people, as we speak now, will be close to the line. They'll be looking at the takings every month and deciding what their outgoings are going to be. So do the commissioners have any input into this? Can the commissioners help retailers in any way?
Directly, probably not. Indirectly, through experience. I obviously have run a business for 12 years. I sit on the board. I'm very pro-business. I'll do anything I can to support a small business owner. I had an email in the last couple of days about a planning dispute and a small business in Ramsey, and I will always help and support anyone I can in the business market.
Lots of questions to get through between now and 1 o'clock. We're with Rob Cowell from Ramsey Commissioners.
60 years serving you as the nation's station. This is Manx Radio.
For your new bathroom, head to Pacesetter, Harris Terrace, Douglas or Spring Valley. In Pacesetter's fully fitted showroom, you'll find the latest bathroom products and designs, from new contemporary styles to traditional Victorian tiles, wall and ceiling panels, accessories and much more. With many ranges exclusive to Pacesetters, plus professional design advice from the experts, visit Pacesetter, Harris Terrace, Douglas or Spring Valley.
You can get the best of everything, where the price is twice as nice.
The Douglas Choral Union proudly present Andrew Lloyd Webber's masterpiece Evita. Get swept away in the remarkable rags to riches tale of Argentina's First Lady as she rises to power and becomes a symbol of hope for millions. With iconic music and breathtaking performances, this theatrical masterpiece will leave you captivated. At the Gaiety Theatre from the 9th to the 17th of February. Book tickets at villagaiety.com/Evita or call 600 555. Sponsored by DQ Advocates and supported by your nation's station, Manx Radio.
No matter how much you need to dig, or how much you want to dump, Fox Group Isle of Man offer an extensive range of plant hire, long-term lease and sales. We're the island's exclusive supplier for Louis Gong excavators with immediate delivery. Our machinery comes with a complete service package with finance plan options. Call John on 458946 to discuss your plant needs. Fox Group Isle of Man, part of the Fox Group of companies.
Every Sunday afternoon here on Manx Radio at 4 o'clock, join myself, Simon Clark,
as Mish Phil Gorn,
live with Gullis Gagan. We clarify and translate some Isle of Man place names.
Riet na Slagen. Well, Riet is a view, and then na Slagen is the hills, but in the construction there it means of the hills, so Riet na Slagen, the view of the hills.
Plus we go through some of the Manx words and dialect.
Surely everyone knows Shield, don't they?
Mischief. That's Gullis Gagan, live here on Manx Radio every Sunday afternoon at 4.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Talking to Rob Cowell today on Mannin Line, Ramsey Commissioner. As a note in from 179 who just says, you keep talking about growing the population on the Isle of Man, this 100,000 vision. The government has the vision. Is there any evidence that the Isle of Man wants to grow the population? Well, it's a government target and they seem intent on doing this, and for that you will need houses, and you'll need a lot of houses, and houses in the north. Just another note also, thank you Dick, who just said, why doesn't Ramsey take over the whole of Mackald, take it down to take the boundary to Bulgan Rock and incorporate Mackald into Ramsey? Just saying, why there are other commissioners putting rates up a lot more than Ramsey? Why do you think that is, Rob?
That's a minefield. What a question. How can I answer that? I don't know. We're very, very prudent. We work very hard at keeping costs down. We always run a finance project and we do our best. I don't know. I could not comment.
I mean, obviously, the new housing estates that are going to be up, that will be shoveling a lot of rates your way as well. Are you planning for the future with that in mind?
We don't. I think it's fair to say that once they're built and the rates are incoming, that would be a great bonus. But we look at running the town today and tomorrow, and not in 5 years' time.
Okay, just also another question in regarding the rate reform, as you mentioned. The lady said she didn't quite catch all of that. Could you run it through, please? Again, the rate reform. How should we reform rates on the Isle of Man?
That's a huge question, isn't it? How do I do that in 2 minutes? So obviously, Ramsey's rate take, roughly net, is about £3.2 million. Bride, Derby, Ballaugh, Lezayre, there's lots of other parishes there that will take the same. But if you said there's roughly £4 million worth of rates takings, there's 6,500 houses, that's £1,500 a unit. And that would be a fair way of reforming the north. I think that there is a huge need and want within the Isle of Man to give local authority reform. How that's delivered is obviously too difficult because no one's actually delivered it. As I said, that legislation is 71 years old, and no one's had the bottle to tackle it. I think that you'll see that come change in the next general election. I believe that will be a mandate that will be delivered, and I hope that reform will come through that process. But how we achieve that, I'm quite a simplistic guy, but obviously that won't be the actual final result. There'll be a huge amount of work, but I do believe it's achievable. Okay,
all right, this is on a personal level. What do you feel about onshore wind and the onshore wind farm that's going to be in the south of the Isle of Man? Are you pro or anti?
So I'm pro green energy. I'm pro anything like that, as long as it's financially viable, as long as it's sensible. I'm not for it at any cost. That's not at all acceptable. So there's obviously reports in the headlines here that the onshore wind budget of about £40 million. If we look at the government's track record of delivering on projects on target, that's a dream figure. That probably won't happen. You look at the Kroger gas proposal; they were looking for circa the same money, £35-40 million of investment. And again, the simplistic in me thinks, well, why can't the government do a joint venture? We end up with a gas field and with offshore wind at the same price, and I just think that that's a win-win in my opinion. And onshore wind should be a last resort as long as everything else has been tackled. So you think the government should be backing that Kroger development? Yeah, I do. I think there's massive gains there. I know my counterpart tomorrow will probably be screaming at the radio and screaming at you tomorrow, but I do believe that there's gain there to be taken, and we should be taking at it. The Isle of Man is in a very delicate position, and we should not be turning away any gain. Okay, a note in from Annie on 466. Could you ask Rob Cowell what's his opinion on the proposed building on Poldui Salt Marsh and Nature Trail, which is a favourite area for dog walkers? Yeah, that's a really interesting planning application that's come through. So this is obviously in a flood risk zone. It's in an area of beauty. So my understanding is that Poldui won't be built on. It's a farm called Ballacrint, which sits within the development, within that scheme. Now, interestingly, it's quite interesting. So there's a road on the back side of that development in Alden Estate that Dandara were going to build. They've built half of it, they haven't finished it, and that needs finishing. So part of this proposal is to include that road, which is so important to get traffic off Lezayre Road and away from the schools. I think it's a crucial part of that application. But quite interestingly, the developers used a flood risk strategy. That road becomes a harbour wall effectively, and the development sits behind it. It's quite clever. Again, off the top of my head, I can't remember, 130 units. It's at appeal. I believe that the appeal's due any minute now. But if you ask me to push on, do I favour it? I do. It's development in town. It's exactly what Ramsey needs. I'll probably get shot for saying that in terms of from the nature point of view, but I do believe that if it's done properly, it will be cohesive. Okay, John. Hi, John. You're live with Rob Cowell.
Oh, hi, Rob. Hi, Andy.
Hi, John.
Rob, can I ask your views all around Ramsey Beach? Because what it is, I've lived in Ramsey now for 54 years. And where the lifeboat station is, there's a pocket of sand. It's almost like a triangle when the tide's completely in. Now, for summers and summers and summers, as far as I can remember, that beach has always been cleaned. And what you've got to remember is there's a lot of young families in Ramsey. They're not as well heeled as most people. They haven't access to a car. That beach, believe it or not, Rob, is their summer holiday. And as to why it's not cleaned, it's beyond me. I've heard it mentioned from Mr. McGuinness that they have to get DEFRA in to make sure there's no birds nesting, and then they clean it. But then after that statement, he said it's above my skill set. You know, and I'm not trying to sound disrespectful here, but at what point is it above his skill set? I mean, I could go down there, there's no birds nesting, so let's clean the beach. So where's the problem here that we can't clean this beach, Rob?
Thanks, John. Yeah, luckily it's not above my skill set. That triangle of beach is dead easy. You know, it's there's a serious movement there at the moment trying to regain that beach, and there's a shelter being built, I believe, on the roadside just next to it. The beach, I believe, will be cleaned and cleared, and that will be done before the start of the summer. That's something we've been discussing a lot in the board, and I believe that that will be happening fairly soon. I do believe, I'm with you, John. You know, that beach was used by me as a kid. It'll be used by my kids. It'll be used by their kids. It's a generational beach. It's an asset to the town. It's the only beach we have got. It needs protecting. It needs looking after.
Right, I know we've got many beaches, but that is the only usable beach when it comes to the summer for swimming and sand.
Correct, and we'll do our best to maintain that.
Okay, all right.
Great news.
Good to hear from you.
John.
Cheers now.
Cheers now. Onchan commissioners apparently have cancelled live streams of their meeting due to GDPR. Are you still live streaming your meetings?
Yes.
Did you know about this Onchan thing?
I didn't know they'd stopped it. I know it's a huge issue. I know we were looking at it. The issue being that we use Facebook as a platform.
Right.
So where's that data? It's in California.
But, I mean, you've been streaming Ramsey Commissioners' meetings for a while now, haven't you?
It's about 2 years now.
Yeah, okay. In fact, you were probably one of the first to do it on the Isle of Man.
I think we were.
And that's purely just to get the democratic process out in front of people.
Yeah, it's to open it up and to make it, going to the town hall on a Wednesday night in the rain in January, not that attractive, but if you can click on and watch it.
So, for the moment, the Ramsey Commissioners' meetings will continue to be live streamed?
Yes.
OK, it's 12 minutes before 1 on Manx Radio.
I began to struggle with the stairs, but I didn't want to leave our family home. So my daughter told me about Acorn Stair Lifts and their new showroom in Douglas. I was able to try the stair lifts and find the right one for me and the home I love. They were so friendly. The whole process was hassle-free and they offered the whole package from installation to servicing. Choose the island's first choice for stair lifts. Acorn Stair Lifts, South Quay, Douglas.
Call Acorn Stair Lifts now on 672 414 or call into our Douglas showroom.
Are you concerned about your eye health? Holmes & Davidson Opticians in Douglas are proud to offer the Eidon Ultra-Wide Field Retinal Imaging and Heidelberg 4D OCT systems. State-of-the-art machines that allow early detection and management of eye diseases. Don't wait. Book your appointment today and ensure the health of your eyes with the best technology available. Call 676 230 or visit holmesanddavidsonopticians.co.uk now.
Preparing for your GCSEs and thinking about your next step? Are you finishing your A-levels and thinking about university? Or perhaps you're an adult wanting to return to education, reskill or upskill? Then come along to University College Isle of Man's next open event on Saturday 10th of February between 10am and 1pm. Visit our Homefield Road campus to learn all about our range of courses and subjects and explore our facilities. For more information, visit ucm.ac.im.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Rob Cowell is here from Ramsey Commissioners. We're talking now. I mentioned your official position. It's, what is it? Here we are. What is it? Finance?
General purposes and establishment.
OK, what does that mean?
So that means we look after anything within the town hall, staffing matters mainly, and we run all sorts. The finance department, there's the staffing, that's the establishment, and general purposes is like a wider review. So there's a hierarchy probably within the board, and it's a top job. I'm pleased to hold it.
Okay, there's going to be a grey water discharge drain at the camper van site in the Murrock. When's that going to happen?
Well, I would hope before the camping season starts in the summer. I haven't got a definite answer for you.
And what's the situation now regarding campers and also in residential areas, HGVs parking in residential areas and camper vans?
Yeah, parking's becoming a problem because obviously, cars are really expensive and want a house, and now everyone's got a car, 3 cars, 4 cars, and a camper van for the weekend. So where do you keep them all? There is an issue there, and they are being parked in the States, they are being parked in places that's probably inappropriate, but legally there's nothing against them doing so.
Is that anything that the commissioners have jurisdiction over?
No. I think, was it Minister Thomas at the time, tried to bring a legislation forward that was going to ban works vehicles, HGVs in private residential areas, and that went down very badly.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get it all the time. People write in and just say, and I'll mention the names, big companies like Manx Telecom, people parking Manx Telecom vans and then saying, but they're on call.
Yeah,
and
staff members,
big Manx. It's nothing against the staff member, but obviously the company is saving on a car park wherever they're supposed to be.
Well, yes.
Okay, is the commissioners, are you responsible for footpaths and potholes? Is that your...
So certain ones,
right,
and not others. It's a difficult one.
It gets complicated.
But you can certainly, anything, you can always refer it to the town hall. It's a good point to call. We are the service centre, so bring it in. If it's our responsibility, we'll sort it. If it's not our responsibility, we'll push it up the chain to the DOI.
If you don't know where it is, it's the top of Parliament Street. It's that big building, where the library is, and upstairs to the counter there, isn't it?
That's right. So yeah.
Okay. So footpaths and potholes, and just regarding more questions on the harbour and the flooding and the flood wall. So at the moment, it's going nowhere. Is that right?
So yes, that's frankly it. I believe it's in the processes of the DOI, but that's not saying anything. It's not saying it's at planning. It's not at finance. We need that business case. We need it to finance. So we need the planning. We need the money, and it needs to be built.
Okay, I won't spare your blushes now. 895 says, how refreshing listening to somebody on Mannin Line who actually answers questions and having an opinion. Keep up the good work, that is. No relation, I don't think. The wife's not on the Isle of Man at the moment, is she?
No.
Okay.
The phone might still work.
Yes. And also, thank you to Ramsey Commissioners for the fireworks display. That's become a big success.
That's a huge success. And
where did that come from?
Spectacular value for money. I think realistically it was COVID. Everyone missed everything, and Ramsey was the first event, I believe, of the out of normal lockdowns, and the amount of people that turned up to Ramsey, the swing bridge, I've never seen so many people.
You couldn't move for hours, could you?
No, it was ridiculously busy. My shop was heaving, the town was bursting, the park was full, and the amount of people in that town and the trade would have been phenomenal.
And the weather was great.
And the weather was great.
So will the fireworks display continue in the Murrock?
Oh, totally. It's become a real focal point of our calendar. I'd like to invest in the Murrock Park. I'd like to put lights around the outside of the lake.
Hello there. This is...
I'd like to make all sorts of changes in the park, but the park is so central to what we do, and the fireworks is obviously well liked.
Thank you. Just one final point, and I want to bring this up regarding, we mentioned that sadly Leonard Singer, the death of Leonard has created a vacancy. So if somebody thinks it's something that they would like to do just to get involved in the democratic process, over to the town hall and have a word there, yeah?
Yes, please.
Okay, thanks for being with us. When's the next meeting, by the way?
Thank you. Good question. It'll be Wednesday, the 21st of February.
Okay, and that'll be streaming live as well.
It will be.
All right, thanks to Rob Cowell today from Ramsey Commissioners, and thanks to you for getting involved. Lots of questions, most of which we didn't get to, but we've covered a fair amount. Tomorrow, it's the leader of the Manx Green Party, the new leader, taken over from Andrew Langan Newton. Lamara Crane is on. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Vintage Kelly's Eye on the way.
WINT 60 years serving you as the nation station. This is Manx Radio.
Peter, what's Kelly's Eye looking at today?
Today, David, chimney pots.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6.
Yep. We're here in Onken, and in front of us is a house of 1840s vintage. Come back to that in a minute. And it's got 2 chimneys. One flew parallel with the front, and the other one running at right angles to it, going down through the centre of the rear section of the house. The house roof is an M shape. In other words, it goes up and down and up and down, so it's got a central valley running through. On the front there are 2 slight projections with gablets projecting
they're
above.
not even gables then, they're just things that pretend to be gables, aren't
That's right, yeah, because the height of the room is already within the eaves height. It's for decoration, and then it's had a porch added I think in the late 70s, maybe a bit later. And what we're looking at, in fact, is Onken Vicarage.
Yes. Generally, basically, apart from this front porch and maybe a few other bits, is more or less as it would have been originally?
No.
Not at all?
Windows. What we're seeing today are windows which Nick Wells, the previous vicar, had put in not long before he left. And they're sliding sash windows with small pane. They replace windows that were put in the 70s, same time as the porch, which in turn replaced the 1938 windows, which were metal framed. And when they put the metal frames in, they opened they widened the openings. So the original windows, although they've now got sliding sash, were sliding sash, but were narrower, not as wide as what we see today. The Onken Vicarage Act of 1838 gave the people of Onken permission to go ahead and start raising money, and by 1842 it was up, sort of Gothic in style, paid for, of course, by public subscription and a little bit of help from the locals in carting stone and the sort of thing that they did if they couldn't afford to give money.
Yeah.
Has served Onken since 1842, so here we are in 2005 and still going strong.
And it's well positioned for the vicar to look over his flock here, because you can see practically most of the village from here, can't you? Or the original village.
Indeed, yes, a good position, and there he goes. He's just got out of his car, but he's not using the narrow front door, he's going round the back.
Part of Island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.